Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you're listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati, New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. You are listening to one of the highest-rated paranormal radio shows on Blog Talk. No bull, no lies, just a true platform for everyone to share their knowledge and experiences. When searching for the truth, good communication is key. Our phone lines are open for questions or for stories. The number to call is 661-244-9831. Make sure you press the number 1 to get into the queue. We'll try to get to you as soon as we can. Otherwise, our chat room is open so you can post any comments or questions as well. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paranormal Review Radio. You'll find more articles, blogs, and full show uploads. And if you have specific questions, comments, or would like to be a guest on the show, email us at paranormal.review@aol.com. Now, sit back, get comfy, and prepare to open your minds. It's time for Paranormal Review Radio.
Dr. Stephen Farmer is world-renowned author, soul healer, shamanic practitioner, and spiritual teacher. He's the author of the recently releasing Healing Ancestral Karma, as well as other bestsellings, including Earth Magic Oracle Cards, Animal Spirit Guides, Pocket Guide to Spirit Animals, Sacred Ceremony, and many other publications, including Children's Spirit Animal Cards, Children's Spirit Animal Stories CDs Volumes 1 and 2. He conducts workshops and trainings on a variety of topics related to earth magic, soul healing, shamanism, and earth-centered spirituality, and offers private consultations face-to-face or by phone for earth magic, intuitive readings, and shamanic and psychospiritual healing. With a BA in psychology from the University of California, a Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology from Chapman University, and a PhD from Madison University, Dr. Farmer has been a lifelong healer and teacher. He has extensively studied and explored spiritual transformation, trauma recovery, shamanism, hypnotherapy, breathwork, and energy psychology. Tonight, we will be in touch with an amazing topic of animal spirit guides and how we can receive the wonderful gifts many people are not aware of. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Stephen Farmer to the show. Hello, welcome, Dr. Farmer. How are you?
Really good, Anthony. Hi, Lucy. Glad to be on your show.
Hi. Great. You know, it is so wonderful to have you on the show, Dr. Farmer. You know, I'm Native American, so we're closely connected to the spirit world and how it flows into our daily lives. And we've known about spirit guides for generations. But for those who don't really understand that concept, how would you describe what a spirit guide is in general, whether it be human, plant, or animal?
Well, I think when we connect in the consciousness that we are expressing as in a particular form, or another way to say that, when I'm able to be open to the possibility and have that awareness and the willingness to connect with spirit guides, then all sorts of magical things can happen. Excuse me. A spirit guide is either a non-visible being, and it can come in many different forms. Some people have are a little bit more attuned to, let's say, ascended masters or archangels, certainly ancestors, which is a big pitch that a big part of my mission right now is to start paying attention to the
Hello, Dr. Farmer?
Did we lose him right off the bat?
Yeah, we did. I'm going to call him right back.
All right, try and see if you can get him back. We can't lose him now. We need to know about spirit animals. Dr. Farmer.
The person you're trying to reach is not available. Please leave a message after the beep.
Okay. So let's try one more time.
We've been having a lot of technical difficulties tonight. Skype went down. My computer went down. This is not great. I wonder if it has anything to do with the spirit animals. Good old blog
Or the
talk.
full moon.
Or the full moon.
The full moon.
The person you're trying to reach is not available. Please.
Okay. All right. One more time.
One more time. And then we're going to talk about it on our own, if not. You know, before tonight, I was actually, there's actually quizzes online that you can take to find out what your spirit animal is. I'll have to post it. I didn't actually go through it all. It's actually 5 different pages of...
the person you're trying to reach...
He's probably still talking and doesn't realize that the phone actually disconnected. Well, what I was trying to say is that there's a test online that you can actually take to find out what your spirit animal is, and it's about five internet pages long, and I didn't actually get it to finish it all to see if it can reveal what mine is. I'm curious to find out what mine is. I'm not too sure about animal spirits. I haven't learned that much about it. I know you have, Lucy. That's pretty much your ancestry.
And it's interesting he was talking about connecting with the ancestors. And being Native Americans, that is a really big part of, you know, our connection with spirituality in that. I mean, I've said it many times. My mother and my grandmother are my spirit guides. And today especially, I felt them very closely. So what I wanted to do...
There's a bunch of different interviews that I actually watched Dr. Farmer on, and being a shamanic healer, he had talked about, you know, trying to get in touch with yourself and Mother Earth, and being able to be one with nature, so that you can actually open yourself up to the vibrations and the energies of the animal spirits. It actually helps formulate that communication. And we've said that before, too, with, you know, just the regular spirit world. Any paranormal investigator out there, I'm pretty sure, positively sure, that they would agree with me on that idea that you have to put yourself in the bubble, Lucy, too.
Oh, okay.
No, leave him on in the bubble, too. Okay. And so we've said that, and I'm sure a lot of other paranormal investigators have said that too. You have to try and sort of commune and be one with the spirit world. Therefore, it actually opens yourself to the idea that you know, you can communicate and foster that communication.
Nope.
It's still not getting through?
No.
So what I was saying is have you watched his interviews before?
Yes. Yes, I have.
There was one, I think her name is Leela. Lilu. Online on YouTube. If you type in Dr. Stephen Farmer, you'll probably find a bunch of different interviews. But I thought it was interesting. You know, at first I thought it was, you know, sort of, it had that sort of hippie vibe to it. You know, it's communing and being one with the earth, and I don't know. I connotate it with that kind of feeling. But it was actually interesting. The way that he spoke and the way that he explained the idea of animal spirits and how important it is, and how we don't even realize a lot of the times, many times as a matter of fact, that we actually have these animal spirits calling upon us. One example he had given is that, you know, if you say you wake up in the morning and you turn on your television and right away there's maybe a cartoon or a commercial about a frog. And then you may then get dressed, brush your hair, brush your teeth, you know, on your way, drive into work. You turn on the radio and you hear a song maybe about a frog, or there's a line in the verse of the song about a frog. And then maybe you call your loved one or your children or whoever, and they may have went to the flea market and picked up this, you know, really cute, cool-looking little frog statue. And so you really normally wouldn't think anything of it, you know, because these are fragmented pieces of your day, and it's not an overwhelming impact. But if you were to go back at the end of that day and think, what was repetitive? And if it had some sort of animal part to it, where you noticed sort of this animal figure that was within your life that day that kept coming up, Dr. Farmer has said that is its way, that is the animal spirit's way of actually getting your attention. Either it is informing you that he or she, this animal, is your spirit guide, or the particular, I guess, power or energy that animal, you know, successfully portrays is needed in your life at that moment. And so therefore you are, I guess, getting that calling for a particular reason. Either it is for help in some sort of situation or guidance of some sort. Hence, you know, the name Animal Spirit Guide. So it was really interesting to hear him speak about that and try and learn and understand that concept. It actually gives you a better reflection of your life in general, because by doing so, by trying to go back, say at the end of your day, to think about all of the things that happened, sort of like a, you know, final review. It's really interesting to see what are the repetitive responses or interactions that you've had, and is there a meaning to it, you know?
Well, to hear Dr. Farmer in the interview, the way that he spoke about it, a lot of it, you know, it's a particular animal that happens to come into your scope of awareness. And I really like the way he put it. He explained it as like, what is this animal trying to tell me? What does this mean? And it's interesting because a few years back, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, I lived in the suburbs and had a small porch. And every morning, a mourning dove would come to that porch. Every single morning. I had lived there for 5-6 years, never saw one. And for a particular period of time, almost a month, this bird would come and land on the ledge every single day. And it was like...
Did you ever figure out why? Looking up the meaning of the white bird.
The mourning dove?
The mourning dove.
Yeah. She was pretty much telling me that freedom was coming. It was.
Is that when you left your ex?
Yes. I mean, because it was like she just was so beautiful. She was so free, and she would just take off. And that's basically what I got from her. So, I mean, it's interesting. You don't notice these things all the time, but for some particular reason, there may be some kind of animal that you see. Now, spirit guides, they can be people, they can be relatives. Plants. But it's really interesting when it comes to animals, because like a lot of us Native Americans, we do identify closely with the animal world. Different clans have different animals that they identify with. In particular, like my clan is the bear clan.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of a bear, I think of strength. I think of course they're cute and everything like that, but I also think of strength and fierceness. And the only thing that I can equate that to is if you take a mother is going to defend her child no matter what. She's going to become vicious, much like a bear would. So I did try Dr. Farmer one more time, and I left a message. I'm going to try again, okay?
Okay.
So
one of the other things that I found interesting when talking about animal spirit guides, we leave off one little section. We mentioned plants just before. We all know about, the actual human spirit guides that we have, and of course the animals that we're just talking about now. But Dr. Farmer actually also goes into mammals, but also goes into insects. And when I was thinking about animal spirits and spirit guides, insects is not something that actually came to the forefront of my mind. So it was really interesting to learn about that matter. Do we have Dr. Farmer on the line now?
yes, we do.
Dr.
Hello.
Farmer, are you there? Hi.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. It's kind of nice when Mercury's retrograde, because we all just shrug our shoulders and go, Mercury?
Yes.
I mean, I tried calling you back in on another line, and that wasn't working. So I'm glad that we're able to continue the interview.
Well, that's great.
Well, you know what, Dr. Farmer, I have another question. You know what? You obviously were not born to know all of the things that you do know. So how did you become one with the earth and become filled with this knowledge?
Oh, my goodness, Lucy. You got a good, the show is a long show, right? We got an hour?
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it brief, though. It started, I wasn't particularly indoctrinated with any religion or my father, one of my favorite stories is my father quit the Baptist church. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And my father quit the Baptist church when I was about 5 years old because the preacher told him they couldn't read the Sunday paper. And he said, that's it, we're done with that. Well, I kind of think that's pretty cool. Anyway, I explored a few different spiritual/religious modalities. And it seemed like it went in about a 4-year cycle. It was following a separation and a divorce when I was feeling pretty broken. And I really felt like I needed something, and I felt called to pursue something. So I went through a series of about, 1, 2, 3 different types of spiritual practices, the Church of Religious Science for 4 years, and wonderful, really good. And then something was moving in me, and I had to move on. So then it was the Emissaries of Divine Light, which again was a wonderful experience, and it was about 4 years approximately. And then in the next cycle was this kind of a crazy group in Vancouver that was called Xanthiros, and really got a lot of cleared up a lot of old stuff. I think that when we go into, as a healer, I can certainly speak from experience. And as you mentioned, Anthony, in the bio, that's really been lifelong. My destiny was even portrayed to some extent when I was 13 years old. We had just moved. Myself, my 2 brothers and sister had moved out. So my dad and mom took me to Southern California. And it was just a crazy couple of years, the first couple of years adjusting to the newness of it. And there were a lot of fights. There was a lot of drinking, a lot of fights, etc. And I didn't have the buffer, my brothers and sisters. But this is absolutely true. At about 14 years old, I finally got fed up with it. and I called my mother and father to sit down facing each other, and I started counseling them. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Tell me that there's not some kind of soul's destiny that's portrayed by that. Anyway, so to get to, and then I practiced as a psychotherapist for a number of years and did a lot of different trainings, and particularly found some of the most valuable training was in understanding trauma and trauma recovery. At some point, my partner at that time, Cindy, said, "Hey, you ought to take this 2-day course." And I said, "Well, what?" "It's in shamanism." And I had heard the word, but I wasn't real clear what it was, so I did a little studying on it. The 2-day course was one that many people have taken, that was originally founded by Michael Harder, the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. And he called his system core shamanism. And he took the sort of the thread that seemed to run through a lot of shamanic cultures and those that practice shamanism, and came up with what he called core shamanism. And I got to tell you, Anthony and Lucy, after I took that, I was on fire. I said, this is it. This is home. And I'm obsessive compulsive as it is, so when I find something that really speaks to my soul, it's like I pursue it fanatically. And I became a fanatically interested in training further in shamanism. So I was taking up trainings in Tibetan shamanism and Celtic shamanism and Huna, and more courses from the foundation. I worked with a dear friend of mine who's a shamanic colleague now, and that's Jade Watlu Grigori, who's in Sedona. Learned a lot from the experiences with him. Yeah, I just went for it. I gobbled up as much as I could and processed and integrated it. And one of the things I found I really liked about shamanism is, hi, puppy dog. My puppy dog's up here. If you hear somebody snorting, that's my dog, not me. Anyway, really honest. Anyway, it really spoke to my heart and my soul, and I pursued it and eventually quit my psychotherapy practice and dedicated really my work to shamanism and related topics. Thus, my writing, for instance, the first book in this genre, I wrote 4 books as a therapist, but Samson, go lay down. Go lay down. Yeah, you're a good boy. Go lay down. Go lay down. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Give me a sec here.
You might have a message.
I was going to say, speaking of animals, here's one coming up and hinting away. We just played for a little bit, so hopefully, yes, you're a good boy. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, so I realized that as an author, what I wanted to do was to introduce people who are not necessarily interested in shamanism to some of the ideas and the practices that come out of shamanism, thus sacred ceremony. And one of those that I wrote a couple of books on is spirit animals and animal spirit guides. And Anthony, you had asked me, what's an animal spirit guide, or what are spirit guides in general? And as I said, and then we were cut off somewhere, they're both non-visible and visible beings that are there to guide us and teach us and even heal us. So the book, it started with Power Animals, the book, and then Power Animal Oracle cards, and then Animal Spirit Guides, and then another Oracle card deck, messages from your Animal Spirit Guides, and then the Pocket Guide to Spirit Animals. And I got to say, people really take to it because there are animals all over the place, both in our consciousness as well as in the physical world. And if I may just say that my 25-word or less idea of how you tell if an animal is a spirit guide, one that comes to you, and that is if the animal shows up in an unusual way and or repeatedly, and that's whether it's a physical animal or a symbol of the animal, such as a big dream of some sort. That hummingbird flies right in front of your face and just hovers there for, a foot and a half away, hovers there for 20 or 30 seconds, could possibly be trying to give you a message. You're walking out in the woods somewhere, and a fox crosses your path. Maybe, that's kind of an unusual sighting. In the neighborhood, which I live in a relatively suburban area here in Dana Point, California, and something that does happen, but for me was unusual to see, was a coyote that was running down the street. And the message that coyote gave me was, absolutely right on. So that's a little bit of my history and background that brought me to this, and I feel really blessed to be able to do this work and offer this to people. And it's one aspect of my mission is to teach people about animal spirit guides, and also to appreciate what animals bring us. You know, even more so, like this puppy dog that just came up. You know, what a great joy he is in so many ways, except when he pants really loudly when I'm doing a radio show, but otherwise he's a great joy. Good boy. Well, he's laying down now.
Dr. Farmer, so, you know, we have these guides that come to us, you know, the spirit guides, whether they be animal, whether they be, you know, one of our ancestors. How do we connect with them? Or, as I've heard you say, how do we listen to them?
Well, there's 4 different ways that perception has 4 different inputs, you could say. And that is visual, auditory, and something I call kinesthetic, and then cognitive. And what I find, Lucy, is that some people are better at 1 or 2 of those than they might be at number 3 or number 4. In other words, some people are more visual. They can see images. They can see images on their mind's eye. They can see images even on this sort of translucent screen, if you will, when their eyes are open. They're receiving the world primarily in that way, or they're perceiving the world in that way. And then there's auditory, which is that inner voice, when it's internal, listening to that inner voice, or there may be some external sounds or conversation, something like that we're picking up on. And again, perceiving is in the perceiver. Perception is in the perceiver. You know, and all that means is that it's in an internal process that these sounds and images, etc., are coming through. The third way is kinesthetic, and that is sensations that you feel, emotions that you feel, something that's going on in the body. That could be smells, aromas. When my deceased brother used to come, I could tell he was here by the smell of cigarette smoke, and nobody was smoking, for instance. He was a very heavy smoker. The fourth way is, you could say, is cognitive, Lucy, and that is, these are people who are more cognitive. You ask them, how did you know that? And all they will say is they can't describe how they know it. They just say, I don't know how I know, I just know. So what is helpful for people, your listeners, is to identify the 1 or 2 that are strongest. For instance, for me, my strongest perceptual modalities are hearing and kinesthetic, you know, auditory and kinesthetic, hearing and feeling. When I was a therapist, I could often sense what somebody was feeling before they were feeling. I could feel something in my body. It would resonate with whatever is going on with the person. It still does in my my private consultations as well. And then certainly hearing. I tend to hear messages. When I do my daily spiritual practice, meditation, or shamanic journey, and often that's what it is. I end up in a conversation with the spirit guide. So that's the first step, is to identify what is strongest. Because I know in the early part of this section of the journey, my life journey, I would envy people that could see. You know, psychics that really could see these images. And I no longer do that. What's happened is, over the years, it's just that has developed, and to where now I get very vivid pictures in my mind's eye. And sometimes in a journey or meditation, I get stories that are shown to me as images. So that's a good way to start, is to identify that. And then the next I propose is that you ask. Let's suppose that your grandfather, you know, you were close to your grandfather, and you've had this kind of hint that maybe he's there, you know, in spirit world, but he's with you in some way. Well, what you can do is close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and say, Grandpa, can you please give me a sign about your presence? And then what may happen is that you may, that day, an hour or 2 later, happen to be opening, let's say, a jewelry box just kind of randomly without really looking for something. You just open it up, and there's Grandpa's ring, you know, sitting right there. You didn't even know it was there. Well, I don't know about you, but I would take that definitely as a sign that Grandfather heard me and he's letting me know that he's with me. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's beautiful.
Well, Dr. Farmer, in your book, Animal Spirit Guides, you talk about, or you explain over 200 animals and mammals and insects, and you describe them as power animals and animal spirit helpers and teachers. What exactly is a power animal?
That's a really good question. It's one I get a lot. First of all, the general term is animal spirit guides or spirit animals, and that again is when an animal comes to you in some way. Like I had, I was goofing off one time as I was supposed to be writing, one of these projects, and I was goofing off one time, and out of the peripheral vision, I sensed a fluttering. And what happened is a hawk flew into my office, had flown from the front of the house into my office. I was playing backgammon or something on the computer when I should have been working on one of the Oracle card decks. And I confess, I goof off. Anyway, it caught my attention, and it slammed into the closed sliding glass door at the other end of my office. And he was okay. He's stunned, but he was okay. Happy ending. I like happy endings. But
Sure.
My first question, I think I said it out loud, is, okay, Mr. Animal Spirit Guides guy, what's the message? And then what I did, and I tell people to do this, is close your eyes, imagine in some way that animal is in front of you, and that spirit animal or the spirit of the animal that is sent the representative, like a hawk, as I say, hawk spirit, what's the message? And then I pay attention to what I see, hear, feel, or thoughts that pop up. And again, for me, typically it's hearing. And what I heard immediately was focus. So that's one way to discern what the message is from a visitation like that. Now, that's an animal spirit guide. So it could be any insects. I kind of overheard you as I came on about insects. It could be any animal. Sometimes an animal will show up. That is a messenger or a courier from a deceased loved one. I've had many experiences. People have told me about that. Grandma dies, and then suddenly there's this dove that just wants to hang around by the window. Amazing how that works. So there are two other types of spirit animals, one being power animal, another being totem. And often people use them interchangeably, and that's fine with me, but I'll give you my take on it. Totem animal is a spirit animal that often is one of two things. It's either a physical representation of that animal. Like when I go in my office, I have an altar that has different carved spirit animals, small ones, elephant, raven, wolf, etc., that have particular significance to me. Those are totems. That's one meaning. The other meaning of a totem animal is one that is shared by a group, a family, a community, a clan. For instance, in Australia, a friend of mine is part of the Gukuyalanji tribe, and he told me the men and women have separate totem animals, and they all share as a gender. The men have the cassowary, and I don't know what he said about the women, but that's a totem animal. Power animal, very interesting. When I was first exploring this work and writing about it, one thing for sure is a shaman or shamanic practitioner, it's necessary for that individual to have at least one or two power animals, spirit animals that are near and dear and close. I just did some work earlier today, and the work was called, the type of work was a soul retrieval. There were some other things too. And in a soul retrieval, I always ask two of my four power animals to show me the soul piece that most needs to be returned. And that's raven and wolf. Notice I didn't say a raven or a wolf. When we speak of the spirit animals, we lose the a, n, and the. That tells you, and tells if you're talking to somebody who has an awareness of this, they will lose that. I know that if you say, for instance, Anthony, hey, I saw a coyote the other day. And I go, you saw a physical coyote. I know that. But if you said to me, Stephen, I saw a coyote the other day. I know that either you saw the spirit animal or you had a dream or something like that of that animal. What I've learned since then, as I invested in my own investigation, kind of like guardian angels, everybody's born with a power animal. You know, a particular animal. And Lucy, you mentioned being Native American. That's often true in a lot of indigenous communities, is the child who comes in has a spirit animal that's with them and pretty much stays with them for life. So you could call that a power animal. Unfortunately, because of our structure in this society, it hasn't been, I should say, up till maybe recent years, it has not been really supported by the guardians or the parents, that when a child says, you know, I've got a big lion with me, and mom or dad or whoever goes, oh, you know, that's just your imagination. Nowadays, what I see happening is parents are going, good for you. That's probably your power animal. But what has happened up till recently is, and still does today, is that power animal basically gets bored. After a few years, typically around 7, 8 years old, they go, well, they're waiting for him or her to call on me, and they aren't doing it, so I think I'll just go back into non-ordinary reality and hang out there. Maybe I'll get back later with them, but, you know, it's just kind of boring right now. So later on, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody starting to interject something there.
No.
Anyway, the good news is you can either A, recover that power animal if it's still appropriate for that relationship. B, you may find that in your life now that there's a particular kind of spirit animal that will become your power animal because that's the medicine that you need right now in your life. And that relationship will go on for years typically. They do change over time. For many years as a psychotherapist, and as I began to do more shamanic practice, not in the therapy because there are certain rules about doing that, but as I was learning more and more and training, etc., one of the animals, the spirit animals that came to me was owl. And if you think about the characteristics of owl, an owl, the physical owl, the medicine of that owl corresponds to the characteristics of the animal, or you could say the power of that animal. And that is that owl has a particular gift of being able to see in the darkness. And if you hear that as a metaphor as a therapist, it was helpful to call on owl to help me see past what the person was presenting and into their shadows, into their darkness. And he was very helpful. However, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, owl moved on. I'm not sure, but I think Raven pushed him out of the nest, to tell you the truth. Raven's a little bit cocky, you know, and a bit of a trickster too, so he may have tricked owl into leaving. But my point being is that sometimes those power animals will change depending upon the particular developmental era that you are finding yourself in, that you might need a different sort of a medicine, so to speak. That's a power animal.
Well, you know, we're doing research for tonight's show, and you know, watching a lot of your interviews and your past interviews and such, and others who are passionate about animal spirit guides. Raven and crow seem to be the most popular, or the most, I guess, connected to of the animal spirit guides. Is there a particular reason that you find that raven and crow seem to be prevalent amongst a lot of people?
Yeah, I find that's true with wolf, bear, and often one of the big cats. Typically it's lion or lioness. And I think my best, well, not my best, I think this is the way it is that they are animals that are big in our consciousness. And in a sense, what we're doing when we connect with an animal spirit guide is I, Stephen, as an expression of consciousness in this particular form, connects with the larger field of consciousness. And out of that larger field, there's a selective process that goes on that this particular spirit animal is drawn to me. I cannot tell you how many times people, when they discover their power animal, God, I should do a survey or study this more thoroughly. Wolf comes up a lot. Well, wolf came to me, 25 years ago. And he was one of the earliest power animals. Snake was actually the first. And wolf then came in. And then it was, it was owl, as I mentioned. And then owl got replaced by raven. Snake is still with me. And raven has come to take the place of owl, even though owl shows up in the back seat from time to time. And the most recent one that joined the gang was turtle. I was in Hawaii about, 5 years ago or something like that. And I was showing my friends there, I was showing them the children's spirit animal cards. And the one that came up was turtle. Suddenly, what's happening is, I'm seeing, it's not unusual to see turtles there. You go down to the ocean, and they're protected species, so they show up, they feel safe. But I was having dreams about turtles. Turtle was showing up left and right. Finally, I thought, I don't want 123 power animals. That's too many. 2, 3, maybe 4 at the most. And so I just closed my eyes and I said, Turtle Spirit, are you a new power animal? And Turtle said to me, as if he were like 2 feet away, yeah. That's what he said. That's all he said. So I welcomed him into the clan, into the family. So right now I work with snake, wolf, turtle, and I'm forgetting one for some reason. Raven. We just talked about raven. Raven has a different characteristic or medicine, you could say, to use that term in the sense of their power, their medicine, power, same thing. And that is raven has the ability to manifest. My prayer often to raven is, thank you for bringing from the darkness into the light that which needs to be revealed. That was a prayer that was given to me when raven showed up, because in one tradition, Native American, I believe, raven is the creator bird, and that's exactly what he did, is he brought from the darkness into the light the world. So that's why raven and cousin crow, because I don't see many ravens where I live. I've seen them here and there, but mostly crow shows up. And what I watch for in order to get a sign from raven is I pay attention to crow. I mean the crows. And then if there is one shows up unusually, like flies over my windshield when I'm driving, or comes up to the porch and lands on the banister and sits there and stares at me or something like that, then I go, crow. Your cousin Ray, thank you, cousin crow. Raven is trying to get a message to me.
Well, Dr. Farmer, you know what? What I've noticed, people nowadays, they're becoming much more aware of the spirit world, and a lot of it comes from paranormal investigating, where we connect with spirits who are residing in a particular place. Can our own spirit guides help us in connecting with these spirits, and can they help us help them?
Yeah, I think that, for instance, the earthbound souls, the ones that are for any number of reasons that have hung around past their due date, so to speak, to move into the light. For instance, I know when I've done clearings like that, when I've done house clearings, or there's been a spirit entity, I always have wolf with me. Let me put it that way. And raven is close by. I need to call raven, and this is my own setup, if you will. Is I know wolf is with me all the time, and I trust wolf because he's been with me for so many years that I feel completely protected, wherever I am. Even if I'm not consciously aware of wolf's presence, I know in my heart of hearts that he's always with me. Raven, I may have to call in on the case to help me, let's say, do a house clearing, something like that, or to do a psychopomp work, which is helping earthbound soul move into the light. So definitely, yes, Lucy, they can help us, make contact. I'm speaking of earthbound souls, but there's other kind of spirit entities, you could say, that they can help us make contact with, and also to help us feel safe in doing so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Doctor, I've heard you talk about in other interviews the idea of soul recovery, and this may be getting a little bit off topic of spirit animals, but I found this really interesting and really intriguing to learn about soul recovery. And the way that you explained it was, fragments of our soul disassociate from our body, and sometimes we're not able to get them back, or we may try to, but we may not get all of them back, all of those fragments back. How, as a shaman, how do you perform a soul recovery?
Very good question, Anthony, and I'm glad you asked it, because I think it's so much soul loss. And I use the term soul loss. I don't mean you lose your soul. If you lose your soul, your body's done and you're on to other arenas. But I liken it to a good analogy is holographic images. And the setup with holographic images, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Right.
That's an iconic, holographic image. But we've seen others, and displayed in museums and places like that, as well as on television and movies. When you shoot a particular kind of laser through a special kind of film, that's what you get, is you get this sort of translucent three-dimensional image. But the interesting thing I learned is that if you chip the film a little bit, you'll still get the 3D image, but you'll likely be fuzzier. And the more chips that you take from that piece of film, the fuzzier the image gets. That's a pretty good metaphor for soul loss in the way that I describe it. I know from the vantage point and the training that I've had with trauma that there's a natural mechanism that occurs during trauma, and that's called, in psychology, it's called dissociation, like you use that term, that you dissociate, which basically means all of those chemicals that are running through your body, that what happens, you sort of feel spacey and out of body, right? We've all had that experience. I remember rolling my car when I was 19 and no serious injuries, but I still, to this day, remember that experience, that feeling that was there. It was like I'm not really in my body. From a shamanic point of view, you're not in your body completely. There's a piece of you that's hanging out. People have reported, for instance, seeing themselves on an operating table in a hospital. And then they could come back, and when they come back and into ordinary reality, they're able to describe all these in detail, what was going on in the OR at that time. Well, that's because a part of them had left and then returned. So one of the main triggers for soul loss is exactly that, is trauma. When the system, the organic system, is overwhelmed, excuse me, something happens that, from the shamanic point of view, which is that there's a part of you that leaves. Again, your whole soul doesn't leave because you'd be dead. And your body would be dead, let's put it that way. You're not dead, but your body would be dead. Anyway, so in this sense, there's a fragment of your soul that leaves and sort of hangs out, if you will. And if it's safe to come back, then there are other means that soul will be recovered. However, what happens when there's extreme trauma that lasts for a long time, and or at a time when you're very vulnerable, which, childhood, we're extremely vulnerable, and I'd say probably about 75-80% of the soul retrievals I've done have been fragments that were lost during childhood. So then that soul piece will leave, and they will hang out somewhere in this area that we'll call non-ordinary reality. Now, my job, I just did one earlier today. My job is to, with preparation and proper attention, do a setup where I eventually, through drumming, rattling, to induce the altered state of consciousness that is required for shamanic work, I ask my two main guides, Wolf and Raven, I thank you, and most of my prayers are prayers of thanks. I thank you for taking me to the soul piece that most needs to be returned. And I got to tell you, in other words, I don't decide. I go, hey, let's go for that 5-year-old part or that 20-year-old part or whatever. And they take me typically to a place in non-ordinary reality, and what unfolds is, I call it a story, but it's a story of the soul. It's not a make-believe story, because there is this reality that we typically think of, and then there's what you could call the soul's reality, and that's often through images, stories, metaphors, etc. So I then follow my guides, Raven and Wolf, and they take me, and then I'm shown, most often I'm shown details about, this is, let's for instance say, this is a 7-year-old that's in the woods, just running around, feeling very, very free, loving to climb trees, hugging the trees, going down, putting her foot in the water in the stream that's nearby, and just feeling a great deal of freedom. And then I may communicate with this soul fragment, say, why did you leave? And often the soul fragment will tell me something, either something very direct or at least hint at the reason they left. Like some will say to me, well, you tell her, she knows why I had to leave. Or more directly, they might say, because my uncle who I lived with was nasty to me. He was naughty. And I had to leave because it was too painful. So then the next step in that is then I say, well, I'd like to bring you back, to integrate with the person, my client. And the soul piece may say, yay, okay, I'm going. But more often than not, they say, well, she's got to get out more. She stays inside way too much. So I'm okay coming back, but she's got to promise that she's going to take me out into nature, more often. And I will say something like, well, I can't promise it, but, I'll let her know. And I'm pretty sure she'll want to do that because she loves you and she wants you back. And I can't think of any time, frankly, I've been refused. Sometimes there's a little more negotiation that goes on to encourage and persuade them to come back. But again, I've never had anybody go, yeah, I'm going to hang out here. That there may not be an immediate readiness. I've also had soul fragments that go, yeah, let's go, I'm ready. That's soul retrieval. And I got to say, Anthony and Lucy, I'm not going to do this, but if I were to specialize in any shamanic treatment, that would be the one, because I have seen miracles, with soul retrieval. And it doesn't mean like instant, like suddenly, they're full. And the integration process typically takes, it could be 2, 3, 4 weeks, but their life starts to change. And the change is in part attributable to an aspect of themselves that they now have, a playful aspect, an artistic aspect, a creative aspect that was lost along the way. Somebody was shamed when they were 3 years old. And that part, it may not even be physical or sexual abuse. It could be just that emotional abuse of shaming the child. And they just couldn't take it. That part just couldn't take it anymore. So it left in order to someday perhaps come back and rejoin the person's soul body. And it's a powerful, powerful process, I must say.
Do you think that may be a way of the soul, I guess, helping to cope with or helping the physical body cope with the aspects of its environment by leaving the body?
Absolutely. Again, there's a parallel with psychological dissociation in that it's sort of like this. It's like Woody Allen once said, I don't mind dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens. And it's funny, but it's also that's what happens in my trauma studies as a therapist. I don't think that we're fully in our body at that point of death on that last breath. That the soul has already, the overall soul, the soul body has already started to extend itself out on that etheric cord. There's still a connection, but when that connection is severed is when that person makes, lets go of that last breath. So, I think, as I said, trauma, oh man, I'll tell you, there's so much trauma in the world, us human beings. And when there's a natural disaster, it actually is easier to recover from trauma. But when it's human caused, and it lasts for a period of a long time, usually a few months. Wow, there's going to be a party that's going to go away for safekeeping, one way or the other. It's just the way it is, and that's certainly been verified in so many different ways.
Well, just to switch gears just a little bit, Dr. Farmer, on your website, you do have a link that allows us to actually do a spirit animal card reading online with your oracle cards. And you know what? I have to tell you that I really, really enjoyed this. Can you tell us about the cards and how they can work for us?
Yeah, mine aren't the only ones, certainly, but there's three of the 4 decks that I have out so far that are focused on spirit animals. There's the power animal cards, oracle cards, messages from your animal spirit guides, oracle cards, and then you mentioned the children's spirit animal cards. The 4th one is called Earth Magic, and it's related to the book Earth Magic that I don't know. I think it was published about 5-6 years ago. Anyway, the oracle cards, it's really interesting. First off, they're easier to use, and I'm not just saying mine, but oracle cards in generally. They're not like there's some cards that are inspiring. They have affirmations on them or inspiring quotes or something. Well, that's not quite what oracle cards are, even though those can be used as oracle cards. Anything can. You can open a book on your shelf, say, I'd like a message. Open the book and you see what's there and see if it's relevant. So the way this works, the way oracle cards works is that I call it a conscious collaboration. That when you pose a question, and it could be something very general, say, I'd just like a message that's helpful. And then let's say one way you can do it is just draw a card and see what it says. For instance, squirrel, who's in the power animal oracle cards, there's a key word there. It's preparation. And squirrel says, get ready for big changes. That's the message at the bottom of the card. So then I go, well, okay, does that resonate with me? And I realized that, I am on the verge of it. I can feel it. I can see it. Maybe it's a job change or a situational change or relational change. Or it may just be that I'm in a time when this other aspect of myself that's been developing now emerges. And that could be what Squirrel is saying. So the key, I think, with the oracle cards, just like it is going to a medium or a psychic, and it is kind of like going to a psychic when you use the oracle cards, the key really is, does it resonate with you? I like that term, resonance. And what I mean by resonate is, let's say if I were to do a reading with a client, cards or not, and I get a message from the cards or I get a message from the spirit guide that I'm asking, and I relay it, and I do that. I just say, I just report what I get. I don't censor it. I don't edit it. I just report what I get. But with the client particularly, what it has to happen is that it has to have some resonance. And it does most of the time, but there's times when it's like, I'm not so sure about that. When I'm doing my own readings with the oracle cards, I think, for instance, the Earth Magic oracle cards, they're designed a little differently in that you have to actually meditate with and contemplate them a little bit more than you do the other decks. And also, each deck has a guidebook that I can go and get. First off, it tells you how to use the cards, but also there's an extended message that elaborates on the message that's on the card. And these messages in the guidebook, well, the whole deal was, shall I say, downloaded. We used to say channeled. Now we say downloaded. So it's downloaded. For instance, I wanted a message from Fox. So Fox, what can I say? On the oracle card, and then a message comes up, and then I go to write the guidebook, and I ask for a more extended message from Fox, and basically I transcribe it. And I say that I've created these cards, but the more accurate way of saying them is that they've been co-created. Me and the spirit animal in a collaboration of some sort.
Well, Dr. Farmer, what would you say is the best way to heal ourselves? Is it more of a collective with our spirit guides and animal spirit guides, or is it more so on the individual person itself to gather that strength?
Wow, that's a really good question, and I think there's complexity to any kind of response. One is, I know from the work with the ancestors and the ancestral healing you mentioned, which is my latest book, that one message that comes through real clearly, first off, any healing we do, whether we go see a therapist, a counselor, whether we have a revelatory experience of some sort, that it doesn't have to necessarily be focused just on spiritual healing. Now, what I think does get interesting, though, is that when we, let's say I might, maybe I'm going through some life crisis or something, a therapist might be the best place to kind of talk it through. But at a deeper level, and I'm not sure I like that word deeper, but from another angle, I may need to renew my relationship with God or Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it, source. I kind of like God or Great Spirit. I use those terms interchangeably. That I have to renew that relationship. So I may have to go out and walk around the desert, for a few hours, or go up on a mountain, or sit out and watch the stars, just sit and breathe as I'm looking at this stars in an area that has very little distracting light. That one of the aspects of shamanism, I think, that is really important to recognize, and why it's becoming more known, at least in New Age metaphysical circles, is because it connects us with the earth again. Like Lucy, you said you're Native American, and the tradition in Native American cultures is not living on the land, but living with the land and all the beings. The other element of Native American and other indigenous cultures is, as somebody told me, there's no word for object in a lot of these languages. I think it was Lakota, but I'm sure it's in other languages too, that everything is cloud people, the standing ones, trees, the animal people. Everything is related. And for a Western culture, growing up in Western culture, that's a mind blower because, we're the ones that come from a tradition of the rugged individualist, as if we can truly be an individual, without being influencing our environment and being influenced by it. Okay, I'm ranting a little bit here, but it's worth the rant. What I get really passionate about this because that's one of the biggest reasons that we're in the state that we're in right now, with these dramatic earth changes that we've contributed to. And that is that we are not connected to the land in that way. The land is something we live on, not with. And to reframe living with the land, that's a big task, to reframe that and incorporate that as a daily practice of really living with the land. I've asked people in my workshops, up to, thousands of people, really 2,000 people, or 200 or whatever it may be. How many of you live on the same house or the same land that your parents lived on? Very few do. And the mobility of our social structure is such that we don't really it's rare that we can get intimate with not just the land, but the beings of the land. And so part of shamanism is bringing that back in, that we've been a forgetful species, and we've forgotten that. Nobody's fault, what's been handed down to us and previous generations. But shamanism is reflective of a deeper need that I know that we're beginning to feel more and more, and that's to really develop a greater intimacy with trees, with the animals, with the clouds, with the sky, with the stars, etc., with our mother, to respect our mother. That this big chunk of rock that we're living on, has its limits, and she also has a beautiful way and an elegant way of balancing. Nature always balances things out ultimately. Just a little slow at it sometimes. Anyway, again, I'm ranting. Just food for thought. The good news is, I think, I'm seeing this in the children that are showing up, and the parents that are nurturing these gifts in the children. Mommy, I mentioned that earlier. Mommy, I have a lion, an invisible lion. Oh, good, sweetheart, that's good. Does he have a name? etc. My own daughter, who's now a mother, two daughters, both adult daughters who have children, my grandchildren. My youngest daughter, Catherine, I remember poignantly how I read something that she wrote, and it was when she was 10 years old, because she would sit in the back seat and just start talking, as if she were talking to somebody. And I'd say, who are you talking to, Catherine? Not to shame her. I'd just say, who are you talking to? She, nobody. She'd kind of stop short, so I stopped asking that. And then this piece that she wrote when she was, I think, 9 or 10, she said that they told her, the ones she were talking to, that she shouldn't talk to them anymore because she'll get locked up and put away. Now, where she got that, I don't know. But, that made me sad when she said that. But I just want to say, honey, no. Now she teaches yoga. She's got her little 4.5-year-old she's helping her 4.5-year-old little girl, Lila, grow a garden. It's my reincarnated hippie daughter. She's living in an area where she can do that. So anyway, that's, I think, important, and I think most parents would agree and really are willing to do this, is don't shame or guilt the child because their imagination is the bridge, really, that takes them into the spirit world. And it's not just your imagination, like the song says. It's not just, imagination really is the bridge. And that's different than fantasy, make-believe. Yeah, go ahead, Lucy.
Well, Dr. Farmer, so along those lines, to the skeptics that don't believe in spirit guides and what they can do for us, what would you say to them?
Oh, I'd say be skeptical for sure, but be a scientist about it. Try it out. Ask Grandpa for a son. Try it out. You don't have to believe me. I tell that people all the time. You don't believe me. Please don't. Don't believe me or disbelieve me. But be open to testing this out yourself. For instance, just pay attention over the next few weeks to animals that show up in an unusual way, or repeatedly, or a big dream, or in a symbolic way. You don't believe me, but don't disbelieve me either. Be open. That's really the criteria for openness, is put those beliefs and disbeliefs aside and test it out yourself. Be your own scientist. That's what I tell people, because I don't want to, how would I put this? I'm not trying to convince people of this. That'd be silly. What I do is I offer what I know and what I've learned, and I offer exercises that people can do to find out themselves about this. For instance, a meditation. Try this out. Try out this meditation. And I pick somebody or a group or workshop or, whatever. I describe a meditation where they go and visit a spirit animal and get a message. No, it's not that quick, but I swear to God, it's amazing to me how many people come back with a message that's relevant. In fact, in my workshop, Messages from Your Animal Spirit Guides, there's a lot of the stuff I've been talking about is what I teach, and then they go through exercises to start to kind of warm up to the idea, although most people are ready for it at that point. But there's this one exercise, Lucy, that's just phenomenal, that one of my dear mentors taught me years ago, and it's called a silent question. Let's say Lucy and Anthony, you're in my workshop, and I take you on a guided meditation to a spirit animal, and you ask a question, you get a message, and then the two of you share what you got. Okay, and then I pair you up, and here's the instructions. Okay, Anthony, you think of a question that you want an answer for, some response. And Lucy, you think of one, but don't tell your partner what the question is. And then let's do that same thing where you each individually go to find a spirit animal teacher, and you say to that spirit, let's say, Anthony, you go to fox, and Lucy, you end up going to elephant. And you put that question out to these different spirit animals, each individually. Hey, what's a response? What's an answer to my partner's question? So Lucy, you're asking on behalf of your partner, Anthony. And Anthony, you're asking on behalf of your partner, Lucy. And then you come back, and then one at a time, Lucy, I might say, Lucy, you start. Share what you got without knowing what Anthony's question is. So you tell him, this is what happened, this is what happened. And then, Anthony, after she's told you the story that she's received, you tell her what the question is. And then when you've completed that, you reverse it. You do it the other way. This is the honest truth. In the many times I've done this, I would say that 95% of every group, on average, when I say, did you get a meaningful message from your partner? And 95% on average will raise their hands and say yes. In other words, you didn't know, Lucy, what his question was when you went to seek the answer, and yet you got an answer that was relevant to Anthony and vice versa. It's an amazing, I call it the silent question journey. And it's an amazing process because to me and to, more importantly, to the people that experience this, that's what I'm talking about being a scientist. The people that experience this, it really is an, oh, wow, there's something else going on that is below the conscious level when you connect with a spirit guide in this way. It's a beautiful demonstration.
That is amazing. Well, you know what, Dr. Farmer, this has been such a relaxing and uplifting conversation. And what do you hope that your readers and your students take away from your words?
Well, with the dramatic changes in the earth, what I would want and hope for that readers and listeners would take away from my works is, first off, there is hope. That we are in an era where many more people, and you made reference to this, Lucy, at the beginning of the program, are in the awakening process. I don't say awakening because that implies an end point, but are involved in the awakening process. And we have to keep sort of reminding ourselves, to stay open, to keep our hearts open, our minds open, and walk on the earth and treat her with great respect, and treat all of our brothers and sisters, and our uncles, and our grandfathers, and our grandmothers. And I'm not talking about the human species alone. Treat them with respect and reverence, because they will teach us, they will guide us, and the ancestors are coming in loud and clear. And I don't mean just mom and dad. The ancestors, the old ones, are showing up left and right, knocking on the door and saying, hey, we want to help you out. So call on the ancestors too. So that's a lot, but that's my. I want people to be inspired, and inspire means breathe spirit in. So I want people to be inspired by what I offer.
That's wonderful, and you are inspiring a lot of people. You are, but for those of you out there that are interested, please visit earthmagic.net and learn about more about Dr. Farmer and his works. Dr. Farmer, again, thank you for a wonderful conversation. Please keep in touch, and we really do hope to have you on the show again soon.
Yeah.
Oh, anytime. It's great. You give me a lot of rope there, so I appreciate it. Great question.
No, I mean,
I respect.
Thank you so much, Dr. Farmer. It's been a wonderful conversation, and we're actually going to post your website up on our Facebook page so that our listeners and our fans can actually go to it and visit it and learn more about you and actually purchase your books and read more about your work.
I appreciate that, Anthony. Thanks very much, Lucy and Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Good night.
All right. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bless.
Bye-bye.
I want to actually become a shaman. I've decided.
Go for it.
You and I both live in the hellish cities in the United States. You're in Chicago and I'm in New York. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I think I'm done. I want to, and I've said this so many times to so many people lately, actually, just recently, a lot more than often, and I'm actually becoming more vocal. I want to live on the land. I want to live in the country. I want trees. I want grass. I want mountains. I want animals. I want, the forest. I want all that. It's not that I want to, yes, I want to get away from people and annoying people, but I also want that solitude, that that sanctuary. And to me, I just feel more at peace. When we've gone on investigations in Ohio or Pennsylvania or wherever, even just on the drive through, I am so tempted to just stop and not move anymore. Just park the car, say, Lucy, I'm not coming. I'm staying here, wherever I am at that moment, and that's it. I just feel more in tune with myself, Not just, obviously, you're more relaxed when you're in that atmosphere, but I feel more in tune with myself. I feel my thoughts are a lot clearer, and I can actually extend more to a lot of the things that I have a passion for, which is, the spirit world and the afterlife and learning all about that. And I just feel like my mind is a lot more open. There's, much less distractions, obviously, that I have here in the city. So I'm that's my direction. That's my goal.
Well, you know what? It's so weird because when I lived out in the suburbs, all I wanted was to live in the city. And now that I've been in the city for like the last 5 years, I am so sick of it. I mean, if you read my Facebook page, I post so much crap about all the stuff that is going on in this city. The shootings, the people, I mean, it's just horrible, and I can't handle it anymore. I'm so tired of it. That's why when we go on investigations, it is an escape. It is not only just doing what we do because we want to do it, the investigation. It is just getting into a different frame of mind. And the one thing that I can think of, this last investigation that we went when we were coming back from Naples, and the expressway goes past a mountainside. And at that point, Beethoven's Ode to Joy was playing on the radio. I don't know. I don't remember how or what. I just remember that song. And I remember looking up at the side of the mountain and hearing that music, and I was thinking, oh, my God, this is so absolutely beautiful. It was a moment in time that was just so perfect. And it was like, this is where I belong. This is wonderful. That's why right now I'm like so antsy. I want to go somewhere. We have to go somewhere soon because I am like feeling, I'm feeling like oppressed. I'm feeling the pressure of the city and everything that's going around. And it's not just the physical things that are happening. It's almost like the vibe of just being in the city because you're dealing with everybody else's feelings and all of their things that they're dealing with. And it's almost like, especially for me, being an empath, it's like I feel all of this, and it's just
all the negative energy.
Yeah, it's just completely, and things in my life aren't that bad. I mean, they could be better. I could have a job, but it just makes everything amplified. And it's almost like there are days when sometimes I need to get out of here. I need to do something. I need to get out. So everything that he said, everything that Dr. Farmer talks about is everything that I've grown up with, as far as the Native American. It's almost like even though those are my ancestors, there comes a point, being raised in the city, that you kind of not so much walk away from it. It's not put to you every day. You don't live it every day. And as I've gotten older, it's like those things are coming about, the earth is alive. The ground is alive. The trees are alive. Animals, everything. It's like this connection that we have, and so many of us on a day-to-day basis, we don't look at it. We don't hear it. We don't feel it. And because of that, I think that's why we're in the state that we are. That's why there's so many killings. That's why there's so many people, being nasty to each other. And I believe that's it, because we have lost our way away from Mother Earth. We are, there was a quote somewhere that it's that the earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to the earth. And I think that we've lost sight of that. I think humankind thinks that, the earth is mine. We can do what we want with it. No, you can't, because everything that you do, all the drilling and all the building and tearing down the rainforest, and you are destroying. It's like taking your beautiful mother, and you're pulling her hair out, or it's a person who has this beautiful face, and they decide that they want to get plastic surgery, and they have so much plastic surgery that you don't recognize them anymore, that they've lost all semblance of who they used to be. That's what we're doing to the earth, and that's what we're doing to ourselves, because we're not looking at the gifts that we've been given, and that's the earth, the sky, the clouds, the moon, the stars, the animals. So I really enjoyed talking to him. I really do. And I do want him to come back. I want to talk more about soul retrieval. I really think that is a very, very valid and important thing that we need to learn about.
Yeah, I was fascinated, and that's why I wanted to talk about it a little bit with him. We've heard about soul retrieval and soul recovery before, but I think Dr. Farmer put it in a better context, in the grand scheme of understanding you in capital letters, understanding you, and wanting and the yearning to come to a completeness again. We obviously, if there are things that happen to us in our childhood, traumatic instances that we obviously want to rid those memories so that it does not affect your growing up in your adulthood. And so by doing so, you're actually removing or disassociating, as he talked about, disassociating parts of your soul. You're becoming fuzzier. You're not as sharp looking in that holographic picture, as Dr. Farmer had mentioned. You're fuzzier, and so you're not 100%. Your soul is not complete, and it's missing. And the understanding, of the process and why that happens is because you are trying to cope with continuing to live with that baggage behind you, and so therefore your soul has pretty much taken that memory away so that you can cope and deal with life. And the process of soul retrieval is to get that back, to talk to that energy, and to maybe it's forgiveness, maybe it is an understanding of what it was now that you are in a different age bracket, you are in a different mindset, that you could probably, get over the coping of it and, sort of, lack of a better word, put it to rest, put it to bed, so that you can continue on with your complete soul. And so I found it really interesting. Just by what Dr. Farmer had explained it, was very different than what I had heard in other previous videos that I've watched and documentaries and so on and so forth. And, coming from a shaman and a healer, and someone who's really, truly understanding and knowledgeable about the animal spirit world, puts it in a better context, or puts it in a better frame, so that you are able to actually see it better, which was really interesting for me. But one of the things that came up when doing the research, as well as in talking with Dr. Farmer tonight, is sort of the obvious, and everybody knows this about animals in general, that they have a better, I don't want to say better, but they have a higher attunement with the earth than humans do. Everybody has heard the stories and have seen it happen, probably, in real life with their own eyes, or, on technology, on television or computer or whatever, that animals can sense when things are going to happen. Whether they be good or bad, they can sense. For instance, for a tragedy, animals can sense intuitively that there's danger lurking. And it is something that is instinctively implanted in animals, and I believe in humans as well, when we are born. But I think humans shed that or cover that as they are developing and as they are growing. And it's sort of lost its way, or we are distracted from those signs because we are dealing with the reality that we live in. Animals don't have that reality, They don't have the same reality as what we do, and so therefore they're able to stay connected with the attunement of being intuitive, of knowing of those things. And so when there's tragedy, they know to get away. They can sense when they are about to be prey. They are able to sense when the weather is not going to cooperate at that moment to seek shelter. They sense it, and they have that intuitiveness. So they have it for tragedy as well as for, I guess you could say, happy occasions. Have you all, and I'm sure you have seen the videos of your pet dog or somebody's pet dog or pet cat is waiting or can sense when their master or their father or mother or when their owner is coming home. And, I'm not talking about, the same time every single day. No. If you have an erratic type of schedule at work, your pet knows when you are coming home. They can sense you. They can feel that energy and are connected to it. And so no matter what time you come home, that dog is ready at that door, wagging its tail and ready to welcome you home. And so, how is it that the animals are able to keep this going, and us as humans are distracted and not paying attention to it? And so I think that's sort of what I got from Dr. Farmer's talks and interviews and research that I've done is that we need to get back to us, you. We need to become one with the earth, walking barefoot on grass or on dirt, just 20 minutes out of the day. There's that funny scene in Pretty Woman, in the 1980s movie Pretty Woman, where what's his face? I can't remember his name right now.
Richard Gere. When she tells him to take off his socks and shoes and walk around in the grass. It's a way of grounding yourself, centering your being, and being able to
take a breath. The whole thing. Smell the roses. That whole phrase. It's the escape, and it's the coming back to who you are. That is what is needed, and I think a lot of people forget that, or don't want to pay attention to it because it's mumbo jumbo type of feeling. But it actually does work, and so I think that's where we need to go. I think that's where we need to understand that we need to take those instances. And I noticed in chat also too, Red and I think Liz and Katie Ho too. I hope I'm saying that right in chat. We're talking about, drumming sounds and listening to drumming noises. I do as well. I listen to Tao cymbals before going to bed. It truly relaxes me. There's these beats, I think, that these sort of megahertz beats that people say that sort of are in tune with our brain and the electricity in our brain that helps you relax more, or is in tune more to give you a more heightened, lucid type of dreaming, and obviously the drumming and so on and so forth. And I listen to that as well. I go to sleep with it. It's sad that I sleep with my laptop next to my bed. But I listen to it all night long, and I get into such a deep sleep, I don't want to wake up. But I find that when I do have that, I'm much more relaxed in the morning when I wake up, and therefore I'm not wrestling and tossing and turning all night long. This, I guess, reaches into the alpha, beta, or whatever in my brain that is actually tapping into a piece of either my consciousness or my soul that is creating that attunement. And so I find that enjoyable, and I try to do that as much as I can. And see, I'm trying to do all these things in the midst of living in this crap hole of a city, to release and relax, and I'm finding I'm having to do that every day, and I'm really getting tired of having to do that. I don't want it to be a chore or something that I have to actually create an appointment for myself to do. I want it to become natural.
Well, it's a form of healing. It is, the sounds. I mean, it's so funny because I've been home and I have the music like that going all day. And the funniest thing is my son comes home from work every day, and he's like, what are you listening to? But I think without it, I think I'd be nuts. I think I would be crazy. And it just having that sound. See, I listen to a lot of like the Zen, like the Asian, the spa music. And that's what I listen to all day. And for me, that works. It's kind of like that smooth, that easy. It's the sounds that just keep you from thinking, and I think that's part of our problem. I think what we do now in everyday life, especially living in a city like we do, we're thinking. We're always thinking. I mean, what would it be like to be able just to get up one morning and not have to worry about traffic, not have to worry about the hustle and bustle, not have to worry about whether or not you're going to get shot today? I mean, we have lost this. We don't have that anymore. Part of our reality now is dealing with all these other things that are being thrown at us left and right. The other part, what you were talking about before with the animals, I miss having a dog so much. I can't tell you, the whole thing about the dog always knows when you're coming home. I'm telling you that my son could be 6 blocks away. That dog knew when he was coming home. The dog is so in tune to how you're feeling when you're down. They just know. They just come over and they just put their head in your lap. They know when you're happy. They know when you're upset. Dogs, animals, I don't want to say just dogs. I'm a dog person. Animals are so in tune to us, to the earth, to everything. Why? I think because they don't have this extra stuff that's being thrown at us. They don't have the extra things. They have this pure unconditional love for you. You are the one in their lives. And I think we have all, as human beings, pretty much lost a lot of that. We all have these preconceived notions about everybody else, and we don't like this person, and we don't like that kind of person, and we don't like this. But a dog, an animal, has this unconditional love. And I think that is what we're missing. And I think if a lot more people turn to that instead of these ideas that they have, that we learn, these behaviors that we learned, you're raised as a Sox fan and you're not supposed to like Cubs fans. You're raised as a Democrat and you don't like Republicans. Just throw all that stuff to the side. And how about just accepting everybody for who they are?
It is not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen, but it would be so nice.
Yeah, it
really
be nice.
Would be.
Have you ever heard of ASMR?
No.
Just going back to what we were talking about earlier about sounds and theta waves and drumming and all that other stuff. ASMR, which stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, and what it is, it's triggers that if you go on YouTube, you just type in ASMR, there's 1,000,001 videos of different people creating them, and you listen to them, and what it actually does is, do you ever hear a sound of some sort, or maybe somebody spoke to you, and you got like the chills on the back of your neck, the tingles maybe, or the goosebumps of some sort? May not have lasted for very long, but you got a little bit of it, and then it faded away. That's what this is, ASMR. And it triggers the senses within your body. Some people have explained it in a way that there may have been something in your childhood or growing up that you may have connected to. Either it be, I'll give you an instance, okay? I remember when I was younger, my mother used to always take a bath at night, always. And it was like 9 or 10 o'clock, like after us kids went to bed, she would go, I guess, do her little spa thing to de-stress from all the stress that we gave her during the day. And so she would, take her bath, and then when she got out of the bath, she would turn on the blow dryer and blow dry her hair. And so it was late at night. It would be 9, 10, sometimes even 11 o'clock at night. On school nights or on the weekends she would do this. And I just remember, because that would be the time that I would be going to sleep or dozing off. And the time when she would blow dry her hair, the bathroom was maybe 2 doors away from where my bedroom was. And so I would hear the blow dryer. And I knew for some reason at some point after she did this for so many times, when that blow dryer came on, there's a car accident right outside my house.
You're kidding me.
No. I just heard this. Anyway.
Are the hairs standing up on the back of your neck?
Well, yeah, because I just heard the crash. Well, the cops will be coming now. Anyway, so I would go to sleep hearing the blow dryer, and it triggered something in me, and I got this comfy feeling. It was very weird. And so not recently, but past few years or so, maybe even longer than that, there's actual videos that people have blow dryers playing, and you can listen to a blow dryer or even a hair clipper. When for guys, when you go to a barber shop and you've got that clipper and it goes in the back of your neck, you get those chills. I used to love that as a kid. There's videos of somebody just playing those clippers, and hearing that gets you those chills and just puts you in that mood where, relaxation. So I don't know if ASMR is sort of that trigger of things that have happened in your past that you have connected with some sort of way. And so now playing that again for you is bringing you back to that moment and comforting you, which I find real. I mean, if you guys have not heard about it or are interested in it, just go to Google or go to YouTube actually and type in ASMR, and you'll find a whole bunch of these videos. And maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. But I find it really relaxing.
Well, for me, it's a smell. It smells. Certain smells trigger a very sense of comfort, and for me, it's honeysuckle. When I was growing up, there was a honeysuckle tree in our backyard, and that tree, when it bloomed, it was the most amazing smell in the world. So even now, to this day, if I just happen to walk past anything that smells like honeysuckle, or even, I can buy honeysuckle flavored candles, and it just soothes. It's just a soothing thing. And I think I relate it to that period of time. I had to be about 6 or 7, and I just remember how carefree, how there was no worries, and there was no problems. I mean, I was a kid, and it was nice, and I was happy. And for me, it smells, not so much sounds, because growing up, the main thing I remember is the L track, because we lived near the L. So, I mean, which is why now I can sleep even when there's a train coming by. It doesn't bother me at all because I was so used to it. In fact, for a while, falling asleep in a completely silent atmosphere was really difficult. When I first moved to the suburbs, it was like, oh my God, where's the noise? And it took me a long time to get over that. I mean, now it doesn't bother me at all. But I think these are all things. These are memories, whether they be audio, whether they be the smells, even sight of something. Maybe having a glass of milk and a cookie every night. That little ritual is a comforting thing because it takes you back to a period of time where you were in a much better place. Maybe your soul was all together at that point. And now as you've grown older, you've lost bits of the soul. So this soul retrieval that Dr. Farmer was talking about, the only thing I could think of is healing. It is all a form of healing. And God knows we need that.
Just to take it back to, the topic tonight about animal spirit guides, the idea of, and what we've just been talking about, Lucy and I, it's that we have to get back to the sense that we need to connect more. We need to connect more with our human ancestral spirit guides, as well as the animal spirit guides, and to not neglect those animal spirit guides. And he mentioned this, Dr. Farmer mentioned this before, and I mentioned it earlier, and then we talked about it as well. Again, if you notice, take the next week, or maybe even just this weekend, try and notice if you see a repetition in anything that has to do with animals. If you're watching television and there's an animal that's playing, or something catches your eye as you're flipping through the channels, maybe Discovery Channel, and there's like a hippopotamus or something, and then if you're watching, or I'm sorry, listening to the radio in your car, and maybe something hippopotamus may pop up. I doubt it, but hey, you never know. Or if you're, reading a magazine or newspaper or something, and there's a repetition in the animals, take note of it, and then look up what that animal, that animal's communication, or what the purpose is of that animal or insect or plant or whatever it is, as Dr. Fromm was talking about, and see whether or not that message means anything to you. If it is a communication that is supposed to be getting to you, but you are just not able to receive it. So sometimes these animal spirits are going to get obnoxious and repeat themselves to make sure that they are coming across. They'll eventually give up. But just over the weekend, just see if you have a certain animal that comes to you all the time, if you have never thought about this before, and see what that message is. It'll be interesting to find that out.
Have you ever noticed an animal in your own life?
No.
No?
No, I've never really. No, honestly, no. I've never really had a connection to. I mean, okay, and I mentioned this before to Dr. Farmer. You know, and you know this, Lucy. I'm in love with the macabre. You know, I love oddities. I love, you know, the sort of, you know, 19th, 18th century Victorian, you know, London feel and look, and, you know, the vampiric era, and, you know, all of that. I love that. And one of the things that's prevalent throughout all of those is the raven. And so I've, you know, Edgar Allan Poe, I'm not infatuated with, but I love it. I love that. And so I guess you could say it is raven for me, but I never really looked into it. I never described it as you know, either my power animal or a connection with that animal itself.
See, for me, there's two of them. Well, actually, there's three. The mourning dove that I mentioned before. But then there's spiders. No matter what, no matter where I am, I will either see a spider or I will be bit by one, or, I mean, I can't tell you. I've been bit by a spider at least maybe 4 or 5 times, okay? But the spider, I mean, when I was working in the merchandise mart, okay, here we are in this big giant stone building in
oh, you told me about this,
right,
sorry.
Yeah, next to the river. And my desk was right by the window. And every morning, you know, I stare out the window at the river.
And what floor did you work on?
I worked on the 15th floor. Outside the window is this gigantic spider. It's been there. It was there for like a week. And it was like every morning. And the thing is that I did some research and I looked back. The spider in Native American culture is representative of the grandmother. Well, who's my spirit guide? My mother and my grandmother. To me, that was a symbol of my grandmother, just reminding me that she was there. I can't explain it. I don't know, you know, but I understand it now. I really, truly understand it, that the spider for me is one of my animals, you know. And when I feel that I'm, you know, not doing what I should be doing, that I'm not progressing the way I should, that spider's there to remind me, yes, you know, she's here with me. She's there. She's my support system. And it is comforting. See, that's my next tattoo. I got to get a spider.
Well,
the sound of a tattoo gun is very calming to me.
Yes, and me too. And there's ASMR videos about that as well, and I've listened to it. Yes, exactly. Because it's almost sort of like a for men, the hair clipper. It's almost the same kind of sound almost. But I lived in Brooklyn, and so are you going to tell me that cockroaches are my power animal then?
Hey, you know, what message did the cockroach bring you?
When I lived in Brooklyn, I lived with cockroaches. Literally, I would open up my dresser drawer, and it would come out of there. I remember one time I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm watching television, and one was crawling up on my leg onto my lap. I mean, people get skeeved just listening to what I've just said, but it's happened, and I couldn't stand that apartment. I hated it. So you're telling me then cockroaches were my power animal then? Or am I supposed to find out what that meant at that time? I actually should look that up and see.
In that case, rats are mine. Growing up in Chicago, they're everywhere. Big old giant rats.
I don't know. All right, so I hope you guys actually enjoyed tonight's show. I know I did. There's many other interviews and videos on YouTube Why are you laughing?
In the chat room, KP Hall says get raid. That was your message.
Oh, that's my yeah. Oh, you know, I've done everything. I swear to God, the cockroaches will be the last thing on Earth after a nuclear war. They really will be, because I had tried everything. Everything. At one point, I gave up. I was like, you know, okay, you want to sit next to me? You want some dinner? I would talk to them. So I hope you guys really enjoyed tonight's show. Like I was saying, there's many other videos, Dr. Farmer, that you can listen to that are really interesting. They go a little bit more in depth on the spiritual side, as well as the idea of becoming one and actually healing yourself and healing Earth as well. I know Dr. Farmer had mentioned also, too, as Lucy's having a little giggle attack. Dr. Farmer had mentioned in this one interview that, you know, the Earth really doesn't need healing. It's it's us who need the healing. And in turn, when we heal ourselves, we heal the Earth. And, you know, I've heard that before as well, but it was, you know, pretty profound and really comforting coming from Dr. Farmer in the interviews that I listened. So if you're really interested, check out those videos. Again, earthmagic.net is his website. Lucy, you said you tried out his oracle cards to find out. Was that to find out who your animal spirit guide is, or was that something different?
It actually just gives you messages. You can choose 3 cards, and 3 cards will come up. It's like a 3-card reading, and you know you'll get 3 different cards, and each card has a message, and you just take the message and you kind of apply it to whatever situation is. Kind of like a tarot card, but different. This has to do with animals. It's really interesting, and I'll post the link to his website on our page. You'll be able to go there and you can actually try it.
Well, great. So again, thank you, Dr. Farmer, for coming on, and hopefully we'll have him on again and talk about soul retrieval and soul recovery. That is a really interesting topic, I know, for everyone out there. So thank you again.
Okay, so let's get to some business now. Let's go to the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this week, it is Tina Bayrampur of Denmark. Okay. Now, Tina sent us a wonderful note on Facebook to let us know that she's been listening to us for the past 2 years. Now, being in Denmark, she is unable to listen to the live shows, but she actually follows us on YouTube. So she sent a wonderful note, and here's part of it. She said, the different theories, even though I'm a skeptic believer, are so refreshing and challenging. It is quite evident that you do your research, yet it is beyond me how you find the time. Thank you, Tina, for your kind words. Thank you so much for watching. You know what? You're part of the family. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Tina. Yeah, I don't know how we find the time to do the research. I think one day I'm just going to drop dead from exhaustion, but I have a passion for it. Lucy has a passion for it. We love doing this, so we find every ounce, every second that we can scrounge up out of the day to find out information to share with you guys. So congratulations, Tina, from Denmark, all the way from Denmark. Hooray. Don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, all you have to do is just like us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube.
Okay. Well, we all have a soul. Call it what you will, it is there. The earth and sky have souls. All of it is connected, all of us connected. We may have difficulty understanding how this all works, but there is help. It may be a long-forgotten ancestor or the mourning dove who comes to your window. It is your spirit guide who brings you the message you need to hear at any particular moment. All you got to do is listen. Thanks again to Dr. Farmer for a wonderful conversation, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Wait, everybody who's listening right now, or is in chat or listening on YouTube when this is posted on YouTube, pay attention to what Lucy's about to say right now for next week's show.
Okay, let's talk about next week. if you remember, we recently talked with Rich Martini about the afterlife and how we may actually choose our lives several times during our existence. We spoke about his work and how past life regression hypnosis can open up our awareness of who we are and who we may have been. Well, that conversation intrigued us so much that we decided to try it. Yes, next Friday night we're going to try something that we've never done before. We are going to do an on-air past life regression experiment. Anthony is going to conduct a past life hypnosis session on me. I am so excited about this. I really, really am. I can't wait. So
as I have a little sinister smile on my face right now.
Yeah. So please, you guys, you gotta save the date. Join us. Let's see if this is going to work. Let's see what we can discover. I cannot wait for this to happen. I really can't. So, we just want to say, we really want you to know how much you all mean to us. You guys take time each week out of your busy lives to listen and to watch the show. We want to thank you all for being part of the PRR family. And you know what? You guys rock. Thank you, Anthony, for being the one who steers the boat every week. Okay.
And hypnotizes you.
Yeah. So until next week, my dear beings, listen to your spirit guides and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.